In this video, I'm going to talk about something that most sales professionals really struggle with. It's how to create sales content consistently. Stay tuned. What's happening, sales? Sender FlowChat connector here today. Sean back at you here with another high ticket tune-up. Make sure and smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this out to those people that might need it. Look, this is a good one because I run into a lot of traditional salespeople that struggle with this exact thing. And the question that came in today came in from Albert. Albert said this. He said, Sean, I seem to run out of stories to tell during sales meetings. Any suggestions that you may have? And it's such a great concept because every time I get into doing sales call reviews for other people that I've trained or coached, a lot of times I hear them go down this path of facts and they just spew out facts about their company, their service, and they don't actually wrap it up into stories. And so one of the things that we should stay focused on all the time is how do we create content consistently when it comes to sales conversations? And the answer is pretty simple. The answer is you got to take notes, right? The one thing that I can share with you, the big tip here is you have to build what I call a story vault. I use a piece of software called Evernote. If you've ever heard of it, it's a great tool. Inside of my Evernote, I have certain folders. Inside of one of those folders happens to be what I call my sales story vault. Each time I hear somebody that I respect on stage or on a sales call or somewhere on a YouTube video or something, and they tell a really awesome story, sometimes what I do is I stop and I reflect and I just open up my Evernote and I click new note, and then I write down the story or the highlights of that story that I was just told by someone else, and then I leave it in my vault for a couple of days, weeks maybe, and then I'll go back and when I need a story, I'll go back and I'll remember that story, remember the high points of that thing, and then I can say, okay, how does this relate to the stuff that I'm sharing with others? And then I can morph that story into something that would work for me in my sales conversations. And that, I mean, as simple as it can be, typically you're going to have a couple of categories, right? You're going to have family stories, you're going to have business stories, you're going to have fun or humor stories, you're going to have lesson building stories like parables. Those are great stories as well. One of the other things that I do to create content consistently in my sales conversations is I like to use very simple sales stories. Like this recent week, I talked about, remember the little train that could, the one that, and the story goes, because I made a big point about, most people, when it comes to using one method of outreach or another method of outreach, they start doing the process and it gets heavy and it feels really tough on them. But then all of a sudden it's like, no. As long as you kind of get through that first initial awkward, heavy part, then you can grow faster. So the story that I was telling was the little engine that could. And the story goes like this, there was a big train that came into this little town before it had to go up this really big hill to get to its destination. And the two locomotives pulling this big long train burned out, got upset, frustrated, and just quit pulling this big train in this little town before they went up the hill. One of them actually got called away to go work on another train. And so the train had no engines to pull. And the train went around the city and was asking all kinds of these other locomotives, hey, you look like a big enough locomotive to pull my whole cargo up this hill and get to my destination. I'm in a desperate need. I need some help. And all the other locomotives said, no. This isn't the thing that I can help you with. And it wasn't until the little engine that could walked up and said, you know what? I think I can do that. I can pull your train up the hill and I get it over to the other side. And so this big train says, dude, you're a little guy. I don't know if you can do it. And all the other locomotives started doubting him. And next thing you know, the little engine, and the train ran out of options. And so the train came back to this little engine and said, okay, little engine, you said you think you can do this. Let's go, because we're going to miss our delivery if we don't move forward. And so what happened is the little engine that could hooks up to this big long train and starts going up this hill. And then it got really, really hard. And the train almost quit, couldn't do it. The engine was just like, oh man, I don't know. And starts sweating and like the engine was pumping at full steam. They're barely making any progress. And all of a sudden the train's questioning the engine while he's driving. He's like, how are you going to make it? And the little engine's saying, well, yeah, I think I can get there. And all of a sudden there was a bridge of hope. The angle got a little bit less steep. The train climbs up to the next place. And all you see is all of a sudden they can see the end and they're like, oh man. And then the chant, the simple chant, I think I can, I think I can, I think I can. think I can. All of a sudden, this little engine pulls this big train up the hill and makes the destination, and he succeeds. And the point of the story here is that how I was using that parable, this is just an example, as I was taking that story and I was sharing it or matching it with prospecting in the outreach method when you use direct messages. Because when you first get started, it seems really simple and easy, and you just got to do this one thing, like pull this train up a hill, right? Or reach out to X amount of people per day or something like that. And then when you get into it, you start feeling like, whoa, it's heavy. I'm getting a tremendous amount of engagement. I don't know what to say. Maybe that's where you started, like whatever the case may be. And it's hard. And that part of that hill is you got to climb up that piece. Then you say something right, and then you get a reaction. And then you're like, wait a minute, I think I can do this. I think I can book an appointment. I think I can, just like that little train did, right? And now you see how I'm putting sales content into some sort of a story around prospecting. Just as an example, this is one that I used this past week, but it all comes back to how do you create the sales content? And the answer, again, is create a story vault. See, I have the little train that could in my story vault. When I needed a lesson for that presentation that I was sharing, I went to my story vault and I looked through and I found that one because I was like, oh, I could probably match this somehow. And that's how you can consistently create sales content all the time, whether it be for your presentations, whether it be for your sales conversations, etc. One of the other best things you can use for creating sales content is the stories of clients that have been struggling here. They found you, they had a transformation, and they got here. That's a very easy way to put stories into your world where it can, because people buy the same way that people are like them who buy. So if we can relate to them, like, hey, you remind me of Fabi. Fabi was doing about 40-50K a month in, running paid ads into her Facebook group. And then what happened? Well, we got on a conversation with her and we realized that there was a lot of money that was being left through the cracks. And so she installed and implemented our software solution. And next thing you know, within 2 months, she's now clicking over 90K months, 100K months. In fact, she did $200,000 in her first 2 months working with us just because there were some things that were falling through the cracks. And when I'm looking with you, Mr. Prospect, if I'm in a conversation, I'm like, well, you remind me of that person because you kind of seem to be doing something very similar, and I'm confident we can get you those results. And I didn't even have to share any of my magic sauce or what I sell or anything like that. It was just simply a story that was compelling enough to where the person listening put themselves in their shoes and was able to walk the journey. So again, how to create sales content consistently: create a story vault wherever you keep it, whether it's on a spreadsheet, whether it's on some notes or that you're taking. I use Evernote, as I mentioned to you, and just write down anytime you hear another story that is effective in what you do, use that. Definitely put that in your story vault and then come back and get it later. And that, my friends, is how to create sales content consistently. I hope that was valuable for you. Please make sure and start using parable. Go to YouTube, look up parable stories, look up sales stories, read books, right? You can read, every book has a million different stories in it that you can repurpose. What's cool about that is you can actually say factual information when you're listening or reading a book, saying, oh, I heard this really kick-ass story from this person. You don't even have to say who it is. Here's how the story goes. You just spit it out and you can repurpose all the other amazing stories that other people have told until you get to the place where you know how to create stories on your own from different scenarios that you're having. Then you never have a problem creating content consistently when you're doing sales calls. And with that said, you've just been tuned up. I love you. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Don't forget, today is Thursday. Thursday is the best day, prospect, and the best day to close deals. Statistically proven fact. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and I can't wait to see you next time. Talk soon.